Yeah, just to see if you wanted with little middle school to set up the next meeting of what we want to do.
Yep, we'll put it under 6. Cool. Anybody else for anything on the agenda?
I'd like to add the April 30th minutes, they were left off. They were better. And then we have 2 consent items instead of 1. Under non-public, add small letter B. And then we need to talk about your meeting schedule for the rest of the year at the end of the meeting.
Anybody got anything else? All right. Then we've got Mr. Whitmore here for Pembroke Science Project presentation.
All right, well, thanks for having me. So I wanted to run through a few things and give you some updates. So a year or so ago, I was given the Educational Opportunities Grant, right? And that was to see if we could get this animal plant sciences program off the ground. And I just wanted to tell you the progress that's been made and talk about the ELOs that have been generated from this program. All right, so as far as the grant expenditures, the grant has been fully used up and the equipment has been amazing that's come from it. So we've been able to get an enormous amount of greenhouse equipment, aquarium equipment for, doing things like hydroponics. We had the waiters that the ELO students have been in for the last 9 months or so. We've gotten just, general stuff that was falling apart out there. So things like wheelbarrows, laminators for producing things. We got a huge amount of lumber for the wood shop. I'll talk about a few ELOs that have come from that purchase. Also clay for the art department and ELOs that have been generated from that purchase. But just a number of things that allowed us to do really interesting new opportunities inside the greenhouse in the classroom and in the areas outside and around the school. All right, so as far as growing this program, so I've generated 4 new classes at this point, and these classes have been put up for students to sign up for, and we got some huge numbers. So it was kind of a question, is the need there, is the interest there? And when I look at 87 students signing up for botany alone, that tells me that the interest is there, all right? So these are the 4 new courses, and this is the existing course that I kind of see as a linchpin, and diversity of life is really just kind of like an alternative to biology type course that focuses more on life forms themselves and how they fit into everything else that we would find in biology. Now, the 3 courses, or actually the 2 courses, no, 3, sorry, with the asterisk next to them, so botany, ecology, and diversity of life. I approached Southern New Hampshire University and actually got those approved for college credit. So this will be an optional system where, basically any student can sign up for any of these 3 classes, regardless of skill, ability level, whatever it is. But if students say they would like to pursue the college aspect, I'm going to follow a course within a course model where those students will basically get a different version of the course. And doing it this way allows for anybody to be in the classroom. They're just getting a different version of alongside the other ones. It makes more work for me, but to provide that opportunity is huge. So students can get full credit in botany, full credit in ecology, diversity of life. Diversity of life is a year-long one, but they can get 3 credits in botany and ecology just a semester. So it's a great opportunity for them. And Southern New Hampshire, you can't beat the price they charge for the credit system, at least. Also approached UNH, Plymouth State, Franklin Pierce, and a number of other schools. UNH seems the one that may be willing to bite on this, and if we can get them on board and get them to offer something similar to what SNU does, and that would blow the entire thing wide open because UNH offers a tremendous number of different science courses. All right. ELOs is something I really pushed this year, and we got a lot of students to jump on board. So the first one was titled Pots and Plants by the art department, and I had a bunch of money that I put towards clay for them to purchase specifically for this because I think we have a greenhouse, we have a bunch of plants, it's just natural we should be making pots for those plants. So this year they tried it out, they got 6 students to sign on. And they're making pottery specifically for potted plants in the greenhouse. So every so often, a troop of them will come down and they'll wander around and find a plant that suits their interest. And they will design pottery specifically for those plants. I have some images of them later on. The wood shop is working on a number of projects right now. So they have made raised garden beds, which are, there's a couple of them down in the greenhouse right now, they're absolute monsters. Flower boxes, chicken coops, and right now they are starting wheelchair accessible raised beds for something I'll talk about in another slide or so. And another one that is just being run by me right now is the Pembroke aquatic biomonitoring. I have 2 students who are working on a year-long project with me, and what happens is we go into Pembroke once a month, and I'm an aquatic researcher, I do stream research. And so they're getting into the river with me, they're collecting insects, well, that's something. We bring them back, we determine the fauna, and so they're learning field experience, they're getting lab experience, and they're seeing what a real professional, environmental project is actually like. There's more microphones.
If that presentation isn't.
There's mostly. That's fine.
I have a question while we wait.
Yeah,
The list of classes that you put on the first slide.
yes.
They definitely have like agriculture connection to
Yes.
them, right? Have you thought about and are considering maybe starting an FFA chapter, because all we need is one agriculture class to do that?
So I actually ran FFA, man, it must have been 5 years ago. I had a few students approach me. And so it did run, so I'm familiar with FFA and how it works. And if we have the interest, I certainly would consider doing it again.
I'm an FFA alumni.
Excellent.
If you need help, that's something I'm very passionate about.
That would be great.
I'd love to help you.
Because I was at the Farm and Forest Expo on Saturday and I said, it's crazy that we don't have a booth here, doing something.
Yep.
So yeah. Excellent. There we go. All right, so let's see some of these things in action. So these are a couple of my favorite ones that have come from this, but it allows them to be really creative and, I envision this being the sort of thing where maybe in the future the students could actually, sell their pots at the annual plant sale and really give them that motivation. So the wood shop, this is an example of one of the garden beds that they're building. So I think this was an 8x4. We have a couple of them down there. It's amazing. The quality of work that they crank out is impressive, especially the speed at which they do it. We have some very talented students in that woodworking department. Here is David and Megan, and they are doing what they do. So we are currently in one of the smaller streams in Pembroke right here, and they're working what's called a kick nets. So Megan is doing the kicking and David is doing the catching. What they do is they dislodge all the insects off the bottom and catch them in the net. And then they come back to the room and they stare at them for hours upon hours as they pull every tiny little insect out. I've taught them how to process, how to identify, so they've learned quite a bit. David had a trap meet tonight and Megan had prior arrangements, but they've enjoyed it and we're there year round. So dead of winter, they're slogging through the streams. But I made them smile for that picture, make it look better out of the phone. So great opportunity for them to say the least. They both want to go into environmental science after high school. So this was a good one for them. The Harris Hill Center. So the Harris Hill Center contacted me out of the blue about a year ago or so, and they said, "Hey, we heard you have a greenhouse. Could you help us out? We have flower beds outside, and they look terrible. Could you come and maybe bring some students to help clean them up?" And that's a great volunteer opportunity. And so I went with some students in the fall, and we planted everything that you see here. This is actually a picture of the stuff that just came up this spring. So they brought the residents out, and the students chatted up the residents, and helped us plant and told us it's very specifically where to put everything. And they said, "Would you please come back in the spring and see how we can come up and do the same thing?" So we went back. I think it was 2 weeks ago, and that's where we got the picture there. Obviously, we cleaned up again. We did another round of planting, and we discussed with them the construction of these right here. So, actually, right along this side, they talked about, could we possibly get the residents more involved? And I said, well, how about planter boxes? So that's a great idea. And they said, well, most of your residents are in wheelchairs, right? What about wheelchair accessible ones, where they can literally pull the chairs right up underneath, so they can actually get their arms in there and not be too far back. So we're going to put in 2 12x4 planter boxes, or raised planter boxes along this side. They should be ready in a couple weeks, and we'll bring them over with the residents out. I'm going to donate some seedlings for them to get them going, and it's a partnership I want to really see blossom, because I mean, talk about a great opportunity for students to get there and just volunteer their time for a really worthy cause. The greenhouse plant sales, we've been working on this. I've been mostly working on this with my botany class this spring. It wasn't really got it going. So in the last month or so, we cranked it up. We transformed that greenhouse into basically one alley, and afterwards I can take you down and just show you what it is. But if you came by last year, we funneled them through one door and funneled them out the other, and I just want it to be wall-to-wall plants. So the students, prepared all the potting media. They did, the planting of the seeds, the watering, the care of the plants over the last month. The other day, we spent hours setting up the tables, arranging, learning how to divide everything up. We talked about how to turn a profit, how to propagate plants, all of these different things come from this. And it looks something like this at this point. So we got a little bit of something for everybody, but this is something I really want to see grow. This will be the 3rd year, and each year it's kind of doubled in size, and I'm trying to draw in other departments to this, like this right here. So I mentioned what the students have done, planting the seedlings, caring for them, propagating. So I have, I think, 8 students right now signed up to come in and volunteer on Saturday. So they're all going to spend about 5 hours of their day on a dreary, rainy Saturday, but they're going to be here. And they're going to be doing something worthwhile. The exceptional services students will be there, and they're running a bake sale. They've done crafts. They've been doing it for the last couple of years, and I'm trying to get get them as incorporated as we can into this. The wood shop has produced products that are going to be for sale, and we also have a fundraiser going, FBLA fundraising for the American Cancer Society Relay for Life. So every year I want to see it get a bit bigger and more opportunities for interdepartmental opportunities for everybody. We've been maintaining flower beds outside. We got a motley crew right here. So we're trying to spruce it up. Last year, one of the concerns that the outgoing seniors had was that the garden beds were starting to look a bit shabby. So we've taken it upon ourselves to clean that up. So we're getting out all the grassy areas and starting to replace that with digging all these extra lilies out of my yard basically at this point and transferring them over here so we can spruce this up and getting it, get it look a lot better. One other thing that we've done through this program is partner with the Rockingham County Conservation District. So they are a seacoast organization, but they were looking, well, apparently everybody started about our greenhouse. So they contacted us and they said, hey, do you think we could possibly use the greenhouse to start growing some of these rare coastal plants, some of these sandy plants? I said, of course we can do that. So they said, we had some conversations over February vacation. They came in and toured the greenhouse and they said, hey, this is what we can do for you if you give us some space. So they can provide volunteer opportunities for our students at any of these coastal sites where they are working on, restoration projects. They said they could even provide transportation, which was, would be absolutely amazing. I can see absolutely this being a great opportunity for numerous ELOs for students to work on long-term research projects associated with this. They said they will also look into grant opportunities. They'll actually write up the grants for us in order to pursue greenhouse repairs or new equipment purchases for the school. All right, so where is this all leading? So like I mentioned, I want to pursue college credit options for more courses. So I teach 5 different courses at the school right now. All 5 of them are available for college courses. I want to see students get out of here with as many credits as possible. That's definitely the way to look, especially if we get those credits, at a great deal. I'm still looking into pursuing career and technical education option for animal and plant sciences. CRTC needs more time to discuss. I want to really sit down with them and see, if we can get this going. And I think if they see other programs building and the fact that, other schools are sending kids here and all those kids are getting college credit, that seems like a good draw. So expand ELO offerings, particularly the interdepartmental ELOs. So we've already incorporated art department, the wood shop. I want to see, if we can get one for every department, that'd be fantastic. Consult with local business and state agencies for internship opportunities. Got a foot in at Pembroke right now, and they provide a lot of jobs for students. So I'd be happy to funnel them that way. To give them those summer opportunities and just expand everything. Expand the greenhouse sale to include, items from multiple PA departments. Really bump up the pottery crafts, wood shop projects, etc. And that's it. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, Greg. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, any questions on that?
I don't have a question, but I just have a comment.
Yes.
This is absolutely amazing.
Excellent.
I love everything about it, and I'm so looking forward to all the kids that will be able to take advantage of this.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Yeah.
Second.
Yeah, I love doing it, and I like to keep just adding little sideways venues here and there, and just getting it to grow, I guess. So.
Yeah, thanks for updating us. I was excited about it last year, and lots happened between now and then, so it's good to see where it went. You're probably already aware, but just in case, the DES does what they call a rock basket program.
Yes.
That might be, I know DES loves interns and stuff in the summer too,
Yeah,
so that might be another chance to get people involved.
Yeah, I always make sure to hand out piles of those DES internship lists at the end of the school year, try and get some of our students in there.
Yeah, can you share the slideshow with us?
Yeah, could you just help me? Yeah.
That'd be awesome. I think we probably should have called Jerry and told him to come tonight.
Yeah.
Because he would have loved this. I didn't think of it until just now.
And maybe this is just why I need to get off my butt and actually just head on that Facebook page. I can link to that.
There you go.
It'd be a great first post.
The other thing, when you're working in streams,
Yes.
are you investigating ways to mitigate black fly population?
You would not believe the amount of black flies that we collect. It's incredible. Yeah.
I know a few years, all joking aside, I know a few years ago over in New York, they were experimenting with other things, so that just came to mind because,
Unfortunately,
you
black.
want to do that, all the grant money you need.
Yeah.
Big present.
So black flies are actually an indicator of the better the strain, the more black flies you have, as strange as that sounds. So we enjoy seeing them, but we move quickly, to say the least. So we're in there. Yeah. So this next sampling trip is going to be a nightmare.
Oh.
Yeah.
So bad.
Yep.
Thank you, that was great.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Your sales this weekend?
Yeah, it's on Saturday. Yeah, from 9 to 1. So and there's a line. There was a line full of people out the door at 8:30, staring through the glass. So we let them in early last
Should I
year.
come down Friday? Because I'm not around.
Trust me, there's a lot of people who sneak in early.
The other thought I had, raising plants and flowers, all that stuff. Have you investigated like possibly raising trees?
Yes.
Versus, like native trees versus like these ornamental invasive trees that
Yeah.
everybody does.
So every fall, I bring the students outside and we collect wild seed. So what I tend to focus on is stuff like, milkweeds and, some of the perennials, some of the flowering, especially the milkweed. That was a big program this year. But we did oaks this year, we did chestnuts, and we're trying a few of the more obscure ones like butternuts and whatnot.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you brought up chestnut. Last summer, I located an American chestnut.
Really?
Just their sprouts off of an ancient
Yeah.
stump and everything like that, reported them.
Yep.
So if ever you want the kids to see them, I'd be happy to.
That would be pretty amazing. So we get the Chinese chestnuts that line
Right, yeah.
here, yeah. And we're rather successful getting those propagated. Got to chase the squirrels off every morning. They fall right where I park. So when I get out, the squirrels know I'm coming.
But yeah, if you're ever interested, I can take, this summer, if you have a group of kids or something.
Yeah, I would love to see it. I've actually never seen one.
So it was like I was sitting there, I took my grandson out.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting, we took a rest, I'm sitting there looking at this tree, and I'm going, well, there's,
Yeah.
shoots coming off this stump. And sure enough, with this American chestnut.
That's
So,
amazing, yeah,
well, yeah, just got me an email, I'll be happy to.
excellent.
Anything else? Awesome, thanks again, appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg.
Appreciate
Thank you very much.
Okay. That was probably the most fun we'll have all night.
Yeah, thanks for starting to see the, anything about it.
Oh, agenda item number 5 is minutes. We've got April 2 and April 30. We forgot April 30 on the.
And I have handout for you. So there's 2 sets for April 30th.
Oh, right.
And I can pull them up. So if you need a minute to read them, we can approve them later on. And I did have them reviewed by the.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Abby said they were great, no edits, so.
Want a motion for April 2?
Motion to approve the minutes from April 2nd.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or corrections on those? All right, all in favor of approving the April 2nd, 2024 minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, abstentions? Great, April 30th? They were in the drive.
Motion to approve.
The public. Who's going to approve? Sorry,
Do it, you want me to put up both sets or just?
just public for now.
Second.
Great, any discussion about the public minutes from April 30th? All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, any abstentions? If you want a minute on this, we'll take the thing right now.
Excellent, Jerry. Thank you. There you go. Let me- Your screen.
Oh, you should have sent us some.
Those are your parents.
Take it up here on public.
It's the wrong school. Oh, that's okay, then I can do that. What's on the back? Oh, on the second page? Yes.
Thank you very much.
Where is it? At the very top. School. Oh, okay, got it. Are those yours or mine? Mine. Yes, Sandy. Sounds okay.
Okay.
See. Oh, stuff.
So you also have already this ready.
Motion to approve the non-public minutes from 4:30. I'll second it.
All right, no discussion.
Do I need to say as amended?
Yeah.
As amended. I'll still second.
All in favor of approving the non-public minutes from 4:30 as amended, please say aye.
Oh,
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, number 6, board reports. We have got Mr. LePage with us today. Let's make that straight with Mike.
Yes, sir. Thanks for giving everyone. I'd first like to begin by apologizing that I haven't been at the past couple. Some mechanical difficulties have kind of prevented my appearance here, but I'm happy to be back. So I do have a pretty good amount to talk about today. The first,
Closer to the mic.
there we go, a little better.
You have to get it.
This one. The first thing I want to talk about is, I don't know how much Dr. Morris or anyone else touched on the Winter Carnival events. We did manage to have a successful restart after an incident that occurred on the first attempt of day 2, but I think despite that, I think it was a very successful overall event. I believe a lot of people enjoyed it. prom preparations are underway, as I'm sure many people are very excited about. The prom this year is going to be taking place at the Grapponi Center in Concord, the first day of June, which is a Saturday, so not a school night, just stay up a little bit later. The last real thing I want to talk about is when I met at the start of the year, we had 2 exchange students come into the school, Rick and Aliar. Today was Aliar's last day as a Pembroke Academy student. He is going back to Kazakhstan on Thursday, and after having a couple conversations with him, he greatly enjoyed his time here. The many conversations I've had with him, he's grown to be a great friend of mine. He's greatly enjoyed both the Pembroke Academy atmosphere, the students, the faculty. I'm very grateful that we were able to give him a positive experience, not just Aliar, but Rick as well. Rick, as both of them have grown exceptionally well in the Pembroke Academy community. Many teachers that I've talked to are like so grateful to have them. They're incredible pleasures to have in class. Rick in particular has become one of my closest friends. He is one of the funniest people you'll ever meet. If you ever get the chance to talk to him, please do it. But I'm grateful to say that we were able to and have been able to give them a very positive experience of not just the Pembroke community, but New Hampshire as a whole.
Any questions for Jada? Awesome, thanks, appreciate it. Do we have anything?
Tim.
I'm gonna read it.
Sure.
Okay. So this is from Mr. Coughlin, Facilities Director. This past break was a busy one as we checked off many items on our list. Parking lots were swept at Hill, Three Rivers, and PA. Storm catch basins were cleaned at all schools. The safety film has been continued to be installed at Hill and Three Rivers on the exterior windows of the entrance doors, and that was part of the Stronger Connections grant that Josh applied for and received. PA main entrance had the old storefront removed and a new storefront installed. The old metal frame was rusting and failing in many areas, and that again was the Stronger Foundations grant, or also referred to as the SAFE grant. Water meters at Three Rivers were upgraded. Gym bleachers had their yearly inspections at Three Rivers and PA. Facilities crew would like to thank Ms. Parkinson and the PA Drama Club for painting the PA auditorium stage. The stage came out fantastic and was ready to go for their spring production this past weekend. We had many of the facilities crew take some much needed time off. The crew has had a fantastic year. They come to work with such a positive attitude on a daily basis and truly deserve their break as we head into the stretch run of the school year. Let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you.
All right, Carrie, SAU / exec.
So we met on April 10th. There were a few new faces. There was a few new faces that joined us. There was a discussion about the budget cuts and how they were going to, specifically at PA, and how they were going to affect those students that come from Chichester, Allenstown, and Epsom. Also, one of the members from Allenstown did voice that they were a little upset that they weren't brought to our meeting. We discussed what the cuts would be and so forth. So we should try next time, if there is a next time. I hope there isn't, but if there is a next time that we include them, invite them, which we did tell them that they're always welcome to come to any of our meetings that are scheduled, our calendar is posted. But maybe just an extra reach out just to say, hey, we've got a meeting, and if you'd like to come and you have any questions for us, please come. Some of the representatives from Epsom had some questions about some policies for transferring of students, and would like us to work on being a little clearer in our rules and the processes that we are going to apply. And then our next meeting is tomorrow night at 5:30 for the AREA meeting, and then the 6th, I'm flipping that around. 5:30 is exec board meeting, followed by the AREA meeting at 6 o'clock here in the library.
Cool, any questions? Over there for Amy. All right, and then we'll, yeah, go ahead.
agree on the ARE, but it's a committee, it's not a board, so there's no requirement.
And Amy did say she would be there, so I will be there and, but Amy will also be there, so, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Next.
Yep, principals, I guess we'll start at PA this time.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Gary alluded to it, or I believe our Josh's report did. We had the drama club's production of Clue this past weekend. It went very well. They did a great job. We have seniors leaving for their class trip, leave tomorrow. And they're going to Great Wolf Lodge. I'm pretty excited about that. This is a very busy time of year for us. We have a lot of induction ceremonies, a lot of different graduation related events. For instance, on the 15th, we'll have our National Honor Society induction ceremony. We have our top 10 dinner on May 20th. And for those of you that don't know what that looks like, each student in the top 10 brings 2 family members and invites a staff member to come to kind of a fancy dinner. I kind of do the MC and just do a lot of dad jokes. But what is kind of the highlight of the evening is each student gets up, introduces the staff member that they've invited, and then that staff member talks for about 4 to 6 minutes about that student in their class, and they kind of share some funny stories, and it's a great evening. We have our spring concert on May 23rd, for that, and following that is the Performing Arts Awards, which will be on the 29th. Wanted to highlight the week prior to vacation, I was able to join 4 other staff members to chaperone a DC trip for 61 juniors and seniors. This was kind of the brainchild of Eric Dietl and Bill Moore, who are 2 social studies teachers who found an opportunity to provide that experience for students that didn't get it through COVID. And, these are students that were either had been or are currently in civics or honors American government. I think we probably gave our tour guides the best week professionally, because typically they're with 8th graders, and I think they found that our clientele was a little bit more appreciative of some of the things that they were sharing. And we had a great time. Students were great, and the weather was perfect. Also, just to kind of share, in addition to it being a very busy time of year, it's also a challenging time of year for student behavior, and things get kind of crispy. And Wendy, Dave Craig, and Mike Zamuda are 2 deans of students, and they do a tremendous job. I feel very fortunate to have 2 very experienced people in those roles. And, on any given week, they have a very challenging job, but I think that's even more so the case on May and June, and just kind of want to highlight their efforts because it's not always easy.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any questions for Dr. Morris?
I kind of have a general question that I'm gonna ask all 3 principals tonight, so you guys are gonna get to think about this ahead of time. Sorry, Dan, putting you on the spot. How does the morale and the mood seem in the building, and are like the needs that the teachers are kind of seeing for next year starting to be voiced?
It's a good question. For any community to sustain that kind of budget, and there will be an impact of morale. And when we're talking about cutting positions, I said this to the staff, it's impactful not only to the people that we're going to, not be able to bring back next year, but it changes the day-to-day responsibilities for the people that remain too. And, I think that a month ago or so, people were kind of navigating the news that we were sharing with staff and all of that. And I think for the most part, they digested that. And now it's, getting to the end, but there is this kind of anxiety about what next year is going to look like. In departments that have lost a position. In our building, we've also, we're not going to have our curriculum director next year, and that does represent some shifts in responsibility, both on the admin team as well as, in other parts of the building too. So, I think a long answer to that is there is some anxiety about what that's going to look like next year. And there are going to be some things that we have not anticipated that we'll have to kind of figure out next year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Others? All right, we'll move to Three Rivers.
Thank you again for the opportunity to talk about all that's going on at TRS. It's fun to hear that you brought up your question because, yes. One thing I'm immensely proud principal of Three River School, how staff have navigated these challenging times with consummate professionalism and dedication to the kids. It's absolutely second to none. So I couldn't be prouder to be part of that school and part of the staff there. So they've done a great job. And to kind of echo a lot of what Dr. Morris was saying, it's kind of the same place here. Just a little bit of anxiety about what next year is going to look like while trying to be respectful of the people that are not returning while also worrying about taking care of people that are staying. So it's a balance. So over the past month, we've had 2 big field trips. Like for what it's worth, 6th grade in environmental camp, and 8th grade went to DC. Both trips went amazingly well. Kids came back exhausted, tired, some a little dirtier than we sent them out in. But reports from all chaperones and staff, it was successful on both ends. We had a wonderful production of Help I'm Trapped in a Musical. I really would like to thank Eliza Morris, Cassie Seebeck, and Scott Thibodeau for organizing this with the students. They had to pivot a little bit. The snow rainstorm that canceled open night. But they performed 2 great performances on Friday and Saturday, and also did 2 great performances both for the school and for Hill School. The kids did an amazing job. They couldn't have done so without the talent of the leadership facilitating those 3 individuals. Our track, softball, and baseball teams are in full swing. Hopefully, rain will hold off. We do not have to cancel any more games, but kids have been practicing hard indoors, remaining and it's respectful of the property while having to practice indoors. It's interesting to have baseball running in the gym and track really running in the halls to practice, but it's been working. I would like to thank our pals for putting together a wonderful staff appreciation week. Particular Harley was the smoothie truck, which was the highlight of the week. On Thursday, the 16th, TRS will be wearing green to support mental health, mental wellness and mental health. This is being organized by our school counselor, Mrs. Lucas. She reached out to local businesses and gathered a lot of gift certificates like massages and protein powder, drink stuff. So she has all this stuff to raffle off for staff throughout the week. So that's really exciting. And then a few dates I want to call to attention to everyone coming up. June 5th is our outdoor concert, which I'm really looking forward to seeing. June 6th, we have 4th graders coming to step up to Three River School. And at that evening, we have parent night for the 4th grade parents. June 10th is our June Jamboree, which I'm really excited to looking forward to, and I have been roped into the dunk tank. I will not tell you what time I'm doing it. And then our 8th grade promotion is June 14th, which I'm really looking forward to sending off our 8th graders the best way possible.
Thank you. Any questions?
Got my invitation yesterday.
Okay, and then we will move on to the Hill School.
Similar to everyone else, this time of the year is chock full of events and everything. Currently going on right this minute, our 3rd and 4th graders are performing for their spring concert. We had to put all K4 today for the first time, so that was definitely a little bit of a challenge there with parking. It went very far, but we had a huge turnout. I think this is the biggest turnout we've had. We looked around and it's always been amazing, but I think this year in particular it was very cool, bugs and all, because they're out. So we had our K2, I got to see them. They always do amazing. And then the book fair was going on, we have an art show going on, and then the nature trail is open. So it's a huge event. It's pretty well attended. And then 3-4 was performing right before I left. We record that and do put it up on the website, so anyone can go back and take a look. Our Unified Arts team does a phenomenal job putting this thing together. So we have the concerts and stuff going on. We've had a ton of field trips going. I think this year I'm very excited because we've had all of our grade levels are taking or have taken field trips. We got our kiddos out a couple weeks ago to go see a play. We have 1st and 2nd grade going off on their field trips next week. 4th grade gets to do a bunch of little things here or there, but then take some big field trips as well. So that's great. Next week we start SAS testing for us. I think I know you guys are already into the thick of it. One of your friends was telling me all about it today as we were waiting for her sibling to start to perform. So we have reading next week and then math the week after. It's kind of nice, and I say nice because testing is never our favorite thing, but we've already done the writing, so that's off, and that's always one of the more stressful things, so that was already done. So right now it's just the 2 days of reading, the 2 days of math. In kind of between now and also the end of the year, we do our last kind of we call our end of year diagnostics and stuff like that. That's something that helps us a lot drive all of our instructional practices. And we've made some really cool shifts this year that we're excited to see how that's all playing out, because the work that the kiddos are doing and the work that the staff is doing, they have put in countless hours of learning and understanding kind of these new shifts with what you hear with the science of reading and stuff like that. So we're really excited for us, we're excited for you guys, and so we'll see kind of how that plays out at the end of the year. And then again, PALS, an amazing job as always. We want to thank them putting together, a week-long event. I hear people in other schools say they don't have that. It's something that is we're very thankful for in Pembroke. They really spoil them. Smoothie bus, always giant hit. And then as far as Hill School goes, I think with the morale, they pretty much echoed the way it was. It's up and down as things are going along. It also depends on kind of your pocket or how you were personally impacted or are going to be impacted. So it's not like just a blanket answer. It really depends on a lot of that. But I think we have definitely started to digest it. We spent, I think it was last faculty meeting, we went through and I was very clear with, this is the budget impact as it stands of everything. We talked about departments, we talked about budgets, we talked about, we were line by line through the cut sheet, because it just felt like I wanted staff to understand what got sent out. And we even talked about how to read a budget, I explained the numbers and all that. So I explained the process. I also gave them the timeline that we all go through so that they understand. When I asked them, I just felt like we went through this big kind of, event, and it was helpful if all of us understood the timeline and all of that. So great questions came out of it. Right now, everyone has the understanding of where they are, because that was coming out of it. Like, what next? What's it going to feel like? Kept getting questions about, well, do we have these materials? Do we have this? So Tammy and I really said, we need to figure out what we could do to help support people in those unknown questions. And that was one of the things that we did. We've also pulled together the visioning committee. We brought them back to sit and look at the use of the building now that we'll have spaces available, and brought them on board to be a part of it. So we're really trying to educate our whole building on understanding the pieces of everything, how it impacts, being mindful of where everybody's at in that as well. They also have options of whether they attend those meetings or not. So we're kind of trying to attack it with, let's educate ourselves. I don't want you to have those questions. Let me get you that information. And go from there. And I think that's helped quite a bit with the unknown as best we can.
Thank you. Any questions?
Can I add one more thing regarding your question, Carrie? So now that we're in hiring season, I've encountered 2 other kind of negatives from the budget cuts that I had not anticipated. The first is we lost 2 very good teachers because there was this budget cut and it was kind of nebulous what that was going to look like, and they started looking for them. And they found some things that worked out better for their situation. So had that never have occurred, they'd still be here. The second is in getting in touch with people that have expressed interest in coming to PA in previous years. They are now reluctant to do so because we've just kind of sustained this. And there are also question marks about, well, if this happened this year, can you guarantee it's not going to happen next year? The answer is no, we can't guarantee that. So, you know, that's another challenge that we've been faced with.
Understood. All right, any other questions for any of the admins? Thank you all, appreciate the updates, appreciate you being here. And we will move on, we got 2 for consent.
Are you gonna Bill?
Oh, yes, all right, it's right there. Sorry.
I just really like these wires.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to make like solid decisions tonight, but I think we need to give that renovation committee and the volunteers, we need to give them some kind of direction to figure out how many meetings we have left for this school year and when we start meeting again in next year. I just don't want months, like 6 months to go by before we reconvene and start talking again. Figuring out, I mean, eventually something needs to be done unless we're gonna buy some more modulars out there. Eventually we need to do something, but I think we need to figure out, when do you want us to start talking again and about what? We need some kind of direction. That's just my opinion, you can feel free to.
Yeah, I mean, something that we haven't talked a ton about in the budget situation. Can't see any universe where bringing a $40 million bond next year is a good idea. That's just me. So, I mean, I guess what does everybody think? Do we keep trying to push this? Do we ask them to design a thing where we just add 5 classrooms on somewhere and to get rid of the modulars and call it good? What's everybody's thoughts?
I'm glad that Melanie put this on there because I did have some things that I wanted to kind of talk about tonight about this. I think we need to continue. And I know we're not in anybody's wildest dreams would we be able to bring this forward next March, but I also think the work can't stop. I feel like we need to continue to push on to get the information out, because I guess that's one of the things that we're hearing coming from all sides, is that there's just not enough information being shared. And at this point, we need to start, I know I'm one of the people that shares that information, we all do. We need to spoon feed it. It needs to be spoon fed to the people in this town, what our thoughts are, what our needs are. And I understand, we did that, or we thought we did that, and we got slapped in the face. But I think we need to keep pushing forward with the Hill School, because we are gonna come up against those modulars again. And we still, even with positions that are gone, we still have people that are in small spaces. And I know you're working on all of that, but.
I agree, I don't think it's gonna happen this year, I don't think that's realistic. I would hope we're passing a budget next year, but I don't think the work should stop right now. Like Wendy just said, they have the most amount of people they have ever showed up. I would have loved a few of us to be sitting over there with the little model of the school that we were gonna bring forward this year and get the community excited. Do you know what I mean? We can start that stuff ahead of time. Eventually it needs to be done.
Right.
So it may not be this year, but I do think that, and maybe we don't want to meet in June or July, but I do think we at least owe those people, you know, our construction company and all of them, something that we are eventually going to be needing to do something, and we want to move, you know, we want to move forward, but I don't know, what do you think?
I'm just thinking that, I'm not sure what Wendy's timeline is, but I think the first order of business has to be we've cut some grade level teachers and the room config, and we've lost a program, so there's gonna be some movement in the building, so maybe giving you a little bit of time to figure out where, I don't know, maybe you've already done that, we haven't talked about it yet, but, you know, where's everything gonna be next year, and then what does the space look like now? And we haven't even started to think about what the future will be, and when we start doing the budget, are we gonna try to add positions back? Because that changes drastically the needs of the building and the space that we have.
The one thing I just want to say is, with the amount of time that Wendy and you and everyone else teachers included, have put into this. I realistically can't see this. Not next year, this is years down the road now. And I just don't want anyone involved to feel like they're just wasting their time. You just be upfront about it and say, hey, talk to the committee. If everyone feels that you should continue forward, and yes, we do owe something to all parties involved, but I can't envision this anytime soon. So my greatest concern is that I don't want to alienate people that are already involved in this by not being honest and say, oh, go for it. It's not realistic in the short-term future.
I would sort of disagree because I think regardless, unless we have a huge decline in enrollment, that 60s building, we're gonna have a village school. We're gonna be talking about shutting down another elementary school, and I don't wanna live through that.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying that the money side of it, we can need all we want, but if we don't get the money for it.
Right. I guess where I'm at is I completely agree that it shouldn't stall. We need to continue down the path.
Yeah.
I just think to do that, we need to have a clear picture of what the scope of the project is, and I'm not sure if that has changed or not. I'm not sure if after we look at what happens next year with the space and what happens next year with the budget and yada yada, like, is what was designed already feasible anymore? Does it make sense anymore? Can we do less than that and still have what we need? Like, that's my sticking point, is like, I just don't know what you're gonna need about
Right, I get that, but when I talked to Allenstown team who went through the Allenstown process, they were working within their community for a full year. Just talking with their community and getting people excited about it. So whether you figured out the whole scope of the project, some of that community engagement, in my opinion, needs to happen well ahead of time. We haven't done it.
Well, so maybe that's a thing. Maybe you
We haven't
can,
done it.
maybe you can have a meeting with the group and say, hey, let's set up one or two public information nights, and we ask the public that question, like, hey, you guys as a whole just told us you don't want to raise your taxes. Here's what we've been planning for this new school. Tell us your feedback. And if you get a mix of retired folks that on a fixed income and kids, families with school-age children, and everybody in the auditorium or wherever, we can gather a bunch of feedback. I just don't know what practical work we can do until we can nail down what the end goal looks like. And that may not have changed. I just don't know that.
I think that's the stage that we're in, is the community involvement and getting them that information and getting information from them. I mean, I think everybody, and I'm not speaking because I only attended a few of those meetings. So when I say the committee, I'm not including myself, but I think from the members of the community that I've spoken to, they've all said, this wasn't the end all be all. This wasn't the last, our only option. We have a lot more options for this building, things that we can change, things that we can reduce. But like I said, we are going to start to push up against that 1960s building and have to do something. We don't want to keep these kids in modulars. And to be honest, I was sad walking through the Allenstown school for our kids, because it's beautiful, it's wonderful, it's what our kids deserve. And I know that the town is not going to buy into that right now, but I don't want to give up hope.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess this isn't a direction, it's a suggestion, but I would say, set up a meeting with everybody, with the committee and the contractors and everybody that can be there. And sort of just throw out what we just discussed and say, can we do a community engagement night? And then get some feedback from that and see where we go. And then I think there's community feedback, and that's probably happened a few times. And then they should know that when next year's sort of layout takes shape, that's going to impact things. And next year when we start, which is probably going to happen pretty much as soon as we're back in session in September, we're going to start talking about what is our budget sort of strategy for the year. And that's going to impact all of this too. So, but I mean, I agree. It's tough because I feel like meetings should continue. We need to push forward. Like I said, On the other hand, I don't wanna, we've had community members very generously give up their time for years now. And I don't want them to feel like they're coming to these meetings for no reason either, so it's a sort of a balance, I guess. So is that clear as mud? You know
Yeah.
exactly what's going on now?
We sort of need to figure out our relationship with our architect and our construction firm as well, like, they're not just gonna kind of hang on, you know, we hired, the architects are one thing, but we got a construction management company to go forward with, we were hopefully under project, so, I mean, at some point, we have to let them know our timeline, and the prices will be irrelevant anyway, anything that they've started to collect is gonna be a moot point, so we need to sort of think about what that looks like, and maybe talk to the architects about that, and how does this work with our engagement with the both companies moving forward.
Here's a question, this is getting down the road, but we are obligated by RSA to have our Saturday meeting, we're obligated by RSA to have public hearing so many weeks before that. Is there anything stopping us in that time, like in February, from having a completely separate public hearing just focused on this issue? Because I think a committee-led one would be great, but then officially posting like a public hearing to gauge where people are at end of January, beginning of February, or even earlier, because, you know, I don't think it's 100% out of the question that we put something on the warrant next year if there's a lesser version of the project available. And I think part of that messaging is what we've said all along, the more you delay it, the more expensive it gets. We've seen that in the town of Pembroke many, many times. So, you know, I don't think it's completely off the table that there's a warrant article next year, depending on what it is. But I think it'd be great to have a dedicated meeting that we advertise for months, you know, right around the first of the year to gauge where everybody's at. Because if we get overwhelmingly, get the hell out of here, then we don't need to put it on the warrant, you know what I mean?
You have to have your public hearings by statute for budgetary purposes, but you can have as many public forums, public hearings, you just simply advertise them for what they're intended to be and make it clear that it's more than a board meeting, that you would want to engage and have conversation. And it's just the way you advertise it, and that's, we did that several times, and like we talked about Allenstown, you have to do it. You have to do it over and over in different, you know, you can have a Zoom option, you can have handouts, you can make sure you post things on the website, on the Facebook page.
Facebook there.
That Facebook page.
I noticed.
And that was good.
And at this point, you know, there's, I don't know, 3 or 4 town pages already, that information can be just dumped on, because, you know, they're open to do so. And I didn't mean to sound negative. I just don't see it being realistic. But if we get to the point where we have a clear idea of what what the idea is, you know, I wouldn't be opposed to a warrant article coming up next year. But again, it's like the community engagement side of it. With the architect and or construction company, do they have like marketing materials that we can get out there so people can see this?
That's what we were working on right before, like, it's always been kind of like this, yeah, we were working on it, and then we kind of shifted from looking at renovating to the new build, and you don't want to just throw everything out there real quick without having answers to questions and things like that, so they were working on all of that right before Christmas, and then obviously our timeline with everything else changed it, because that was the goal, to start doing that. And I think perspective from Hill School, just as regardless, there's going to be stuff that we have deferred, and the 1960s building and things like that. Like, I think that needs to be a part of the conversation. And then whenever we lay out how the building winds up with this year, we can absolutely share that. And then whatever your goals are moving into budget for next year and how that would impact. So.
I think that's probably going back in time too far anyway, but what, percentage wise, roughly, what are we at space at 3 Rivers? Are we like good, or is there some extra room, or is there some,
I think currently, we're fine.
Okay. I was just curious because I know we had talked about, well, if we're gonna build a new building anyway, maybe build it down here, and then I was just wondering if we could attach it and sort of share space as numbers go up and down different grades, have more of a.
I think to your point about strategy.
Strategizing about what you're gonna do with the budget that's an important first conversation because there's a position eliminated at each grade level, so that just opened up a classroom at each grade level. So strategy is, are we going back to that model? Are we gonna propose adding more staff? Because if we're not, we're gonna stick with what we have, then the space is there for the moment.
Right.
It's hard to know what the future looks like with the budget issues that we're facing.
Ooh,
Same in Hill.
right.
Fewer open spaces that we didn't have before.
I know,
Those aren't all guaranteed either, because we could have a huge influx of kids and we may not have enough teachers and we may be stuffing kids into classrooms. So, especially with all the development. In the 60s building, we're gonna start dumping money.
Right.
So either way,
right, that's what I was thinking,
Yeah.
because if you build a separate school over here, that's great, everything's together, but if they were attached, then as, if you've got a year where there's way less first graders and a crap ton of seventh graders or whatever, like you can be flexible if you're in the same building. If they're separated even by 100 yards, then it's, oh, we're sending elementary kids to middle school, it's like a bigger deal, you know what I mean? But
we did look into that and I think it needs further looking at. But I think it came down to the state had already said no to traffic and stuff like that. It's been looked at. As the people to build an elementary in this area. Sounds like in the past, the state has been like, your traffic can't handle it. Well, look what's happening just for paving up there.
yeah, well, that was the whole thing, is I'd like to build a road, but that's,
Yeah, so, but no, they did look at it, and that's what I did find out, but, that's further down the road too. But I guess it was just in all fairness of everybody who's been working on this forever. It was scary, Doesn't have to be this summer, in the fall, Patty will help us hopefully fix relations with those two vendors.
Yeah.
But
They know what we're dealing with, and they're just waiting to hear from us.
Yeah, but I do think we need to have conversations in the future, because I don't want to see us close another school in Pembroke.
Okay, so do you think, Melanie, will wait till the fall, or do you think having meetings?
I think if our Facebook page gets up, we can start posting a lot of stuff on the Facebook.
no, it's deserved, I should have done.
I think we can start putting stuff out there, and then if we see engagement, I can work with Wendy. I've run many town halls, I'll be more than happy to set up some online Zoom ones, even over the summer.
I like the approach of soliciting community feedback instead of showing them pictures of a brand new building, because I think that's going to have the opposite effect that we want.
Okay.
Because I'll have free time.
Yeah. Okay, then moving on, if you feel, okay. Nice try. All right, I think I didn't skip that. All right, so number 7, we've got 2 for consents.
Yes, we have 2 consent items. One is a child rearing leave and one is a request of a staff member to enroll their students under the school board policy for a reduced tuition rate.
Does anybody have if we have questions, that would be handled, right?
If it's specific to the situation, if it's a generic question, it's okay.
So,
I don't have a problem with either.
I only have one question, and it doesn't have to be a non. Was there a specific reason why the policy was in the agenda, was in our drive for tonight? Just for us to look at it?
We don't look at that
Policy very often. Sometimes when we get that request, people want to refer back and look and see what's in the policy. It's just for informational.
all right, then I'll entertain a motion on either one.
Motion to approve both the child rearing and the staff request to tuition request enrollment.
Great, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any other general questions? Right, and all in favor of approving the child enrollment request and the child rearing request, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. I thought I saw something about.
Yes, I forgot to add a number 1 next to that famous topic. So for gifts and donations, Dan has 1 to present to you.
Yes, thank you. So, at the opening night of Clue, the drama club's performance, I was approached by a longtime community member who was interested in responding to requests made in the program for donations towards microphones. Not these kind of mics, but body lavaliers, which are, what are used for musicals and plays. And this, can I say the person's name, Patty? Yeah, Kathy Cruzen, some of you may know her, made a generous donation of $500 towards the purchase of microphones for the drama club.
Awesome. Is there a motion?
Motion to accept the donation.
All right, is there a second? Second. All right, any questions, discussion? All in favor of accepting the donation, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Please extend our thanks. That was exciting. All right. Now we're on to the actual business of the meeting.
We are. So we have Jess Bickford with us, Assistant Superintendent for Student Services, and Jess has, since the beginning of the budget session, shared with you and the Budget Committee her desire to give as much information about special education, to be completely transparent, to help answer questions and help people understand. So each year we have LEA determinations from the State Bureau of Special Ed. So Jess thought that it would be great for you to see these, and she would be willing to talk through them and explain the results to you. So I'll hand it over to Jess.
Great, thank you, Patty. So there's a lot of information in front of you. I ahead of time shared the rubric in the drive, but tonight added in the explanation of those rubric grids, and that's the additional 18 pages behind the rubric. So the rubric is broken out into subcategories. One is around results-based, so this is like graduation, dropout, preschool, those kind of things. The green section is around assessment. The third, the orange area is compliance. And then there's this 4 other factors where they kind of throw anything else they want to grade us on. This rubric is basically our grade as special education and how we do compared to the rules and regulations that we are held to. So each one of these measures has a corresponding law that we essentially have to follow. And then we are graded correspondingly on our student performance and the data that we report to the state on how we do on each one of those indicators that they call them from the state and federal government. So there's 4 categories that a school district can score in, and that's on the second page of that rubric. The first area is needs substantial intervention. The second area is needs intervention. The third is needs assistance, and the fourth is needs requirements. So Pembroke falls in the needs assistance area, which actually isn't a bad thing. I know it's not perfect and where we want to be, but we're aiming to get to needs requirements. But we do end up falling in the needs assistance area for 2 main reasons. One is our preschool environments, which is in the first purple grid. And what that does is basically say that our preschool students spend more time in a special education environment than they should. And right now, we can't help that unless we had a third preschool teacher. We could further break out kids and bring more typical peers in who aren't in special education to even out those numbers to be a 50-50 split between typical peers and students with IEPs. So we will continue to be marked down on that, or marked up in this case, because a 2 is the worst score you can get on here, and a 0 is the best score you could get. So we will continue to receive 2s on that until we reach that 50-50 split in our preschool environment. The second area, which leads us to a needs assistance identification, is the assessment grid in the green. So this measures 2 things. Our participation rate for students with IEPs in our SAS testing, and it measures their proficiency rate. So if our students who have IEPs don't score at the proficiency level set by the state, then we get a basically failing score for that. And if we have any student whatsoever who is identified not participate in state assessment, we lose points on that as well. So even though, and this is the thing of our existence in special ed, right, is that even though the state of New Hampshire says parents have the right to opt out of testing, the federal government says we do not have the right, and the federal government trumps the state regulation on this because it comes from OSEP. And so OSEP's regulations come down to the state level, and the federal government does not recognize the state of New Hampshire's policy allowing parents to opt out because we are still held to that school. So anytime we have, and it just takes 1 student. If we have 1 student not take that assessment, we get a failing score. Even though it is the parents' rights in New Hampshire, again, to do that. So just one of those, fantastic policies we have in New Hampshire. So, if you have any specific questions, I'd be more than happy to answer this. The breakdown of the data in the 18 pages after the rubric really show you what the state target is, what the state data average is, and then what the LEA is Pembroke. So it tells you where we fall as Pembroke in that measurement. This combines pre-K through 12 plus on here. So it doesn't delineate between Hills, Rivers, and high school, other than specific areas like preschool outcomes, graduation, and indicator 13, which is in the orange, which is secondary transition, which is just high school. This is public data and is available on the Department of Ed website, but it's a year, they have a year lag. And this data is a year lag. So most of the results on here are from last year's performance from 22-23. So our rubric next year will be most of our scores from this school year. There's a year lagging all of that. And moving forward, I will make sure that every year this comes out, so you will have comparative data to look at and kind of help understand the process. But this is when all of the things we do in special education with timelines, procedures, and rules we have to follow. This is why that's important, is because we actually get graded on this, and it can impact our funding because they can take our grant money and force us to use it on certain things, or we could end up losing some of that funding on the grants if we don't meet criteria. But the needs assistance mark that we're in is in a good place to be. It means I'll be providing some professional development for our staff for next year, and we'll keep developing and growing. But other than that, there's no other tasks that we have to do.
This is awesome. I will probably shoot the NBC an email and just tell them they should watch the recording of tonight's meeting because there's good information in here, so
Absolutely.
we'll probably get emails.
Yeah, I welcome emails for sure.
But yeah, thanks so much for bringing this to us. This is awesome.
That's posted on website.
Yeah, great.
I would caution you with posting the 18 pages because it's a little cumbersome. I would just do the rubric and then with the first and second page. Not that that's not something I would be happy to walk someone through, but it can be very confusing if you don't know what you're looking at.
Any questions? Great.
Thank you, James.
Thank you very much.
I'm laughing at Jean. I know, I was waiting on this exact question.
No, this I heard, didn't I?
So what currently, the special ed is, funded majority-wise by federal government, correct?
False.
False, okay.
It is
So-
majority funded by your taxpayers.
Well, okay, no, I'm sorry. Let me reword that. So, the federal government is supposed to, by the law, was supposed to pay 40% of special ed costs.
Correct.
What are they currently paying?
It's a fraction of that. I don't have
It's
the
under
percent.
20%.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
under 20%. Yeah.
Something like that.
Mhm.
So is there a way that you could compile data to make a bill to send to the federal government to make up for that 34% or 37% they're not paying?
I'm fairly certain there was already 2 bills brought forward this fiscal year.
When I say a bill, I need a,
Invoice.
Oh, invoice. I mean, we could, I don't know that it'll get us everywhere, but,
that's not the point.
okay.
The point is to get us
Yes.
somewhere, but we send it to Federal Department of Education. We send it to our representatives, 2 state reps, and the 2 senators and representatives in the House of Representatives. We also send that same bill to our representatives saying, here, look, this is what we sent them, looking for that money. And additionally, this would go for the state also because they're supposed to be paying 40% of the New Hampshire retirement system, if I remember correctly. And they're, that was,
It's way under.
and it's like
Yeah.
16 again, that's 16, I think the most they've ever paid is 17, the same thing. And I'm not, this is to make a statement.
Yep, I understand.
This is probably the least expensive way that getting a lawyer and finding a, commonwealth coming down or starting a lawsuit, just to get these people talking. And then maybe a recap of what happened in March attached with these things, because they mandate this. They put it all on the back of the taxpayer. Some states have it easier than others, maybe, I don't know. They charge their taxes, so it's more expensive to live there. But at some point in time, if we're at the breaking point here, right now, and many other towns in New Hampshire are in the same boat. So I would like to see something like that. I know it would probably entail a lot of work,
That's okay.
but I think that's something we need to do. This is what they promised to pay, and this is what they actually pay. So not only they can see that difference on paper, but also the residents in town moving forward. This is not us. This is federal and state government putting it on your back because they passed a law to make everybody feel good and then said, no, sorry, find your own money. If
If that's something you're testing me with, I will absolutely will.
the board is willing to do so, then yes. If not, I'm okay with it.
I'm okay with it as long as we're not taking up too much time. I think we
That's what, yeah,
I
that's
think
why
we
I
can do this at a very basic level, and if you could just come up with like the overall amount that our district spends on special education. And then we can do changes off of that. Not one line item and doing like a whole big thing, but then we can write something up.
Yeah.
It says, here's the,
Here's your bill.
that says,
Pembroke School Board.
If you get a dollar amount, I can throw it in QuickBooks and write invoice on top and give it to you.
Perfect, yeah.
Just get a dollar.
And, I'd like to see that, Patty pulls for the state and does for the special ed, and any other things that are mandated by the state or the federal government that they don't fund.
There's, one of the.
One of the legal firms in New Hampshire that widely represents a lot of the districts does something every year that it's like a crosswalk and comes out with a list of what the unfunded mandates are, because the state has their own list, and then he comes out with a list and says, actually, these are also the other things that you tell us we have to do that you don't want. So those documents exist.
you said that's like a link.
Yeah.
You have the most recent one, Jerry Zellin usually does it every year. I'll have to see if we can get a hold of it. I haven't seen it come through.
If not, everybody has it. I think I'm meeting with Jerry in a couple weeks.
Yeah,
So
every year does that.
that's about that.
Yeah.
I do have a quick question about those 2 bills. Do you know the results of those? Like I submitted letters on my own behalf in
Yep.
support of those bills. Did they get tabled or?
No, they're not tabled. They're actually in committee right now. So what is going to happen, and I believe this is accurate for the federal one as well. I know for this fact that the state of New Hampshire one, the special ed funding bill is in finance committee. So what they're going to be doing is doing research over the next coming months to gather data and information how that might be able to be funded. And then that committee will report back to the House Ed Committee. And then if they pass that, that'll go on to Senate and Finance. So right now it's in like research.
One more question, Jess, for you. As far as the billing private insurance, have you seen anything or made any headway on that?
Yep, I'm working with another special education director in the state on that currently. And we have met with DHHS and the head of Medicaid for the state. And we have had those conversations. I think what's tripping people up is there's no structure in place for us to go from in New Hampshire to be able to kind of copy that process. But nobody has said that we can't do it. Now we're just kind of in the exploratory phase of like, how do we do that? So I am actively working on that and hope to have some concrete steps in the near future.
Thank you.
Piggybacking off of that, since you're here.
Yeah.
Hit me.
I think you had mentioned too that, something, when you kind of assumed your role, that one of the things we may have sort of been lacking is, was it Medicare reimbursements? And that you had kind of had some plans to work on that. Is that something that's gained some traction?
Yep, absolutely. Everyone, each of the schools and the coordinators have been working really hard on that. They are meeting some monthly, some bi-weekly with our Medicaid consultant group that we work with that kind of helps us with that. And they really have stepped up their efforts. I think Hill School has doubled, maybe tripled their revenue from last year to this year. So they've done a fantastic job. Chichester's the same boat. I know it's not Pembroke, but just to show the efforts, they've tripled their, they went from 8,000 reimbursement to the last time I checked, they were at like 34,000. So everyone's kind of following that suit and doing a much better job at doing the things that they need to do.
Great. Thank you. Anything else before we let Jessica go? Thank you for coming, appreciate it. All right, so we've got current year budget. I think it's funny how it says surplus.
So Amber and I, she's run so many different reports, and what we're trying to do is put the information to you that is clear and you can really understand where you're at, because there's no report. If we ran the report that said what you have remaining, it's like 174,000 left. That would mean nothing to you. She had to create a report that would work and hopefully give us a better picture of where we're at right now. So if you go to the last page of the summary report, we've been running the, 300,000 plus deficit. We had her do a specific report to add back in what we thought we'd get for reimbursements and some other things. And at one point we had $800 in surplus. So she reran that. We put all the numbers together. We're going to talk about the public hearing in a little bit for the items we need to be reimbursed from the trust funds. So we got the final bill from Josh. We gathered all of the information that we need, and she put those reimbursements in. So once we recoup all of the funds that we've spent from the budget for trust fund items that we can go after, you are in the positive $37,000 right now. There's another piece of good news, and that is it's a catch-22. We've had so many increased special education costs, but with that, we got a little bit more cat aid this year than we thought we would, because we've had to expend more than we thought. And a couple of other shifts in the revenue sheet. So we're anticipating almost $90,000 extra revenue right now. And then the other piece that it's going to fluctuate, because after Friday, Amber needs to run everything again because all of our building level, budget people are doing a really good job closing out POs and trying to get everything in so that we have a really good picture of where we're at. So that will happen after Friday. I think things like, Amy Parkinson's been working really hard to get an update on how many outstanding reimbursements we have for teachers for course and workshop reimbursements. So trying to get all of that, because we have to budget the full amount in the course and the workshop reimbursements. We never know until the end, until everybody gets their receipts in and gets reimbursed. So we're trying, that's gonna free up a chunk of money, just don't know how much yet. So I feel really good, it's a good thing, because I promised Bitsy that we would not end in a deficit. So we are not gonna end in a deficit, as of right now. I can't imagine, there's not gonna be anything catastrophic that could happen in the next, I shouldn't say out loud. Not in the next 6 weeks, that would cost the amount of money it would take to put us in a deficit, as the rest of that sentence. So there's such a little amount of time. If a bill came in now, it's not gonna go until next fiscal year, so we're just gonna knock on wood, but not just not song. So I think we're okay to end the year, and we'll have more information at the next meeting, but that's what we've been able to do so far with the report that Amber has created, and she's done a great job of adding information to the bottom of it that it doesn't populate from our accounting system like that. So she's worked really hard to get a good picture for you.
Okay, so in case anybody's watching at home, we will need to schedule a public hearing to draw some money out of some trust funds. We'll talk about that later on.
Next couple items.
Any questions about current year?
I just have one statement to make. I had to call Andy here because I looked at it and I understood it,
Yeah.
but it was in red.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's
She was trying to make it stand out. Yeah.
green or something.
You thought it was in the year. Yeah, don't use purple next time. I'll tell her, don't use red. Sorry that scared you.
I've been trying to get the town to stop putting our piece of the big pie chart on an annual report in red.
Right.
Make us look like villains for 5 years, but they won't do that. Sorry. Okay, any other questions on current year budget before we move on? All right, 9C then. Is next.
So I put budget cuts back on. You saw the MS form, everyone signed it, thank you, that Amber has to turn into the state. It was really late. And they gave us some grace knowing that we had to find $3 million in our budget. So after we made all the staff cuts that you approved, we went back to the cut sheet and made some adjustments once we got the number, because we had to get exactly the 3 million, which was our reason appropriate number. I just want to make sure you're okay with the budget cut sheet outside of staff. That list, if there was anything that we're going to change, it's going to now require a transfer between lines. And I did talk to Amber and we talked to the auditors about best practice moving forward. Knowing the predicament that we're in, they don't like us to do a lot of line item transfers, but I told them this is unprecedented times. So we just need to have extra information in our system and reference back to things if we do move money around. But right now, that's where the cut sheet is at, and that's what's been submitted to the Department of Education. And that was the sheet that I sent home to the community with the statement. So if there was anything on there that you want to move around, it now will require a line item transfer. And the board's policy has been, if we want to move more than $1,000 from a line, that requires board approval. So we're status quo, unless something comes up, we will get your permission to move money.
Does anybody have any thoughts on that right now? I guess mine is, it's mostly nickel and dime stuff anyway.
Yeah.
To sit here and argue with and nitpick it is probably pointless. If something comes up during the year, next year, where money needs to be moved, then we'll take it up.
Yeah.
I mean, we've lived this year with a frozen budget, so it's hard to anticipate what might happen. We didn't get anything this year, and now we've got these cuts for next year, so I would anticipate we are gonna have to move some money around when things come up, but we'll take that one step at a time.
Okay, any other questions or comments on that? All right. E.
So the potential use of trust funds, sort of a couple of things to talk about. The use of trust funds for the items that we've already expended. There have been times if we have a healthy surplus that we would say, hey, let's just leave that, don't pull that money out of the trust fund. we don't have that luxury this year, so we are going to have to post a public hearing, getting reimbursed for all of the money that we put in the budget, for the capital reserve, the equipment and installation, the Hill School, the money that we've spent for the addition and renovation, which to this point has been monthly invoices from the architect, so we'll get reimbursed out of that fund for that. We had given permission to use some money out of the instructional materials trust fund. We only used around $6,500. And then at the bottom is the Pembroke Educational Opportunities. That's the one that Greg was just talking about. So that's not a trust fund, but it is a grant that will reimburse the bottom line. So other than that, what we had talked about earlier on, waiting to see where we ended the year, were we going to pull some money out of the special ed trust fund to offset some of the deficits in our special education line? When I pulled your warrant article, which I included in the drive as a refresher, the first $100,000 in surplus goes into your special ed trust fund. So if we were to pull some money out to give more of a surplus, it's going to turn around and fund the special ed trust fund. So, whether we did that by design or not, that's sort of what happened. So unless you wanted to take, $200,000 out of the special ed trust fund to make sure more of your building fund had money deposited into it, then we won't take any action. I think you just need to think about the strategy of that and what you want to do. We don't have a lot of time to make that decision because we need to post a public hearing.
Right.
And stop me if that's confusing.
I'm with you. Is everybody else?
I understand. And I'd probably prefer that because the special ed really good. What we have in there, I mean, you'd just be recycling it, so.
Right.
Anything that we can put in there, leave in there, because that could come really back and bite us.
So if you have surplus, the first $100,000 per your warrant article goes into your special ed trust fund. If there's more than that, which there potentially could be, you would fund up to $155,000 into the building fund, school building capital reserve fund, whatever's left. If there's not enough left, you fund it with whatever is there.
Okay.
If we got a revenue windfall, we would then move to the $10,000 in technology. And then after that, it goes to offset taxes.
I'm guessing we can't take money out of the reserve by Powerball tickets.
Yeah.
To get the revenue windfall.
No.
Just checking. Do we want to do this prior to our next meeting, like at 6 on the same night, or?
I mean, traditionally, the public hearings for the trust funds have not been, I won't say well attended, they're not usually attended, period. So I think just posting it and having it at the beginning of your board meeting, and if anyone wants to come and comment, they're all expenses that we've talked about publicly, so there's nothing new that we're adding in, so I don't think it's a surprise to anyone. We advertise the amount from each trust fund that we're planning to discuss and withdraw, and then what it was for. We put that right in the newspaper, and we post it on the website, and anywhere else you'd like to post it.
Okay. Can everybody be here at 6 on the 21st, or do you want to keep it at 6:30 and just reserve the first 15-20 minutes for that? Start early, or? Okay. So we'll post public hearing for 6 p.m. We'll post then the meeting for, the conclusion of the public hearing.
Oh, but it's 6:30, I just put
It's 15 to
approximate.
public hearing at 6:30, whatever.
I could say that the board meeting will start immediately following
Yeah.
the public hearing. That way it gives you time if people do come, and if they don't, you can get started with your business meeting.
Yep, that sounds good. Any other questions on 9D? All right. One more under number 9. This is a hot topic here.
It was.
Yeah.
So we've talked about this at a prior meeting, and I asked you to look through the agreement, and I had also explained that the statute changed, and we used to have much longer term agreements. We're currently in, I believe, 15 years with our CRTC agreement for our students to attend Concord CRTC. The statute changed, and I believe it's now 4 years, so we signed all the sending schools that go to Concord signed a waiver so that Dean and Allison, since they represent multiple school districts in that agreement, we signed a waiver so that they could work on the agreement on our behalf and we could share the legal costs. So we each have to hire our own lawyer to do the agreement. That's pretty generic and templated in the first place. So the new agreement is attached. It was in the drive at our prior meeting and is in the drive again for this evening, as well as some client privileged information from Dean, attorney-client privileged, sort of explaining some things about CRTC and regional agreements. So if this looks okay, we're able to get back to Dean and let them know that the Pembroke School Board is okay with the agreement. I think we're waiting for other school boards to confirm, and then it can be signed. Does anyone see anything that they want me to take back to Dean or ask questions about?
Yeah.
It's pretty driven by statute, so there's not another it's.
No, I'm good with it. You need a vote, do you want a vote?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone?
Make a motion to approve the CRTC agreement.
Thanks for a second.
Second.
Any other discussion? All right, then all in favor of approving the agreement with Concord Regional Technical Center, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? I will take a moment to soapbox. This was a hot topic during the municipal budget committee session this year. I just want to address it a little bit. The impetus for the concern or the discussion was, I think the statement that it costs basically, I think it was $5,500 to send a kid to CRTC. One of the main pieces of, I guess, evidence that kept being cited over and over in NBC meetings was that something like 72% of the kids from there go on to college, so it shouldn't really be called career training. I think that that's inaccurate. Having had more contact with the center recently, the programs are amazing, the instructors are top notch. People can come out of there with college credits. They can come out with LNAs. They can come out with advanced life saving or what's the EMT license. First responders. I mean, it is an amazing opportunity for our students. So in and of itself, I would fight tooth and nail to say that every dollar that we spend to send our students there is well worth it. Secondly, we can't provide that sort of education here in-house. It's just not feasible to do so. And third, competitively, the board has stated in recent years that it is our goal to make Pembroke a school of choice. If we were one of the very few schools that chose not to make that program available to our students, we would automatically take ourselves out of the running to be a school of choice. It's an amazing program. And to take away that opportunity from our students, I think would be doing them a huge disservice. So that's all.
I clarify one thing too,
Sure.
it's the statute that I wanted to mention.
So some of the conversation about not entering into the agreement with Concord, I did ask Dean to clarify and give the citation in case anyone followed up and wanted that information. But RSA 188E5 requires us to make CTE available to students. So if we didn't have an agreement with CRTC, that would potentially mean that students could come and say, hey, you don't have an agreement with a local CTE program, so I'm going to go ahead and enroll in the Exeter High School program, and we would need to set the portion of tuition there. So it would open us up to students, going all over the place. So that's our center. Every school district in the state has their own local center. So
And I think we're required to provide transportation too. So if somebody did choose to go somewhere else, we'd have to
if
have.
there are public school student, yes.
All right, we're on to policy. Let's whole separate page. I will let one of you guys take over.
Okay, so if you guys looked at the list, it's kind of daunting, but Melanie more than we both spent some time on this, and Patty also spent some time kind of dwindling it down for us so that we would know what we really needed to take action on. The first thing we want to do is get the recommended to rescind off of our list. So I'm going to make a motion to recommend to rescind policy GCH, professional staff orientation professional staff orientation, GCK, professional staff assignments, and GM, professional staff workload. Did I say GCM? GCM.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on those? All right,
No.
then all in favor of rescinding GCH, GCK, and GCM, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Cool.
I'll do the first reading. We're gonna recommend for policy AC. Okay. So for the first reading, policy AC, we're recommending to move forward the New Hampshire School Board Association version. That's just a first reading.
And I need to fill in the titles.
We're missing, yeah, we need the titles.
Okay.
Do you want me to do this other big section? Or do you got them?
No, I think we might have to tag team them, but that's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
So the next section is our third reading. So ACA, we were recommending to adopt the New Hampshire School Board Association policy. I'm watching Melanie because
Which one?
the
21.
ACAC.
I have that one down. Patty's getting us information.
Not for AC, it's ACAC.
Oh. Sorry.
That one just needs to be reaffirmed. It didn't need to be updated. It was on here, but our version was,
Like you did.
it was okay for the NHSBA.
Okay. So ACE is the one that we need to, is that the one we need to update? Why don't you take this, Melanie, because I
Want me to-
don't think.
ACE is okay. We're recommending the New Hampshire School Board Association. DAF, we can write, it's not ready. EEAEA, which is mandatory drug and alcohol testing, we're recommending to approve the New Hampshire School Board Association policy. GBCD is not ready. Patty will get some information. IGE is ready to be recommended, the New Hampshire School Board Association policy. IHBAA is also ready because we already had that check. Yep, so we're recommending the New Hampshire School Board Association policy. IHCA is okay to move on, recommending policy. And IHCD is also okay, we're recommending an HSBA. That's that fixed. Yes.
All right, then I will make a motion to adopt the New Hampshire School Board Association policies ACAC, ACE, EEAEA, IGE, IHBAA, IHCA, and IHCD.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
No.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Sandy, you good on that? That's a lot of letters.
Yeah.
Confident.
Okay, so then the next one is also recommended. It's DIA and go ahead, Patty, are we done?
Yeah, we're done, but so Amber edited that and added more than the School Board Association policy had for the GASB statement. And I noticed the reference to RSA 198 is missing from her version, and I'd like to add that paragraph, and it's in the School Board Association version. It's just the first couple of sentences, and all it does is reference that the school districts can adopt RSA 198, which allows you to retain funds. You haven't done that, but I'd still like the reference there, so I would just add that paragraph to Amber's, and then it's good to go.
I'd like to
discuss that again in the fall. When that first happened a couple of years ago, and they expanded them out or whatever. We discussed it a lot during MVC at that time, and I think some people over there sort of misunderstood. And the advice was, we don't want to do that, but I would like to revisit that in the fall.
And they did, just recently, the number was 2.5%, now it's up to a 5% retention. And some of the restrictions have been removed. It doesn't have to go to the Department of Ed and the Commissioner of Ed anymore if you have an emergency need. So I think it's,
Yeah.
I think it's, I agree.
We'll just say those letters again.
DIA.
Good.
Can we do the rest?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I thought we were waiting to do that.
It's gonna,
One line from. So then I will make a motion to approve DIA with the one line that referenced the current stars.
As of, I had as updated by Amber.
So did I.
Yes. With RSA one
Yes.
nineteen.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
So GCG. We are going to move that along to the third reading, the New Hampshire School Board Association. GCI was not ready yet. And I'd like to make a motion classes to rescind GCOC.
Second.
wait, any discussion? All right, all in favor of rescinding GCOC? You say aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great.
Okay, and then the last one, the GCRD. We are going to adopt the New Hampshire School Board Association policy.
Are we revising now? Okay, so we're just sticking with the.
Yes.
Okay, so we are going to adopt the New Hampshire School Board Association policy GCRD.
I'll second it.
All right, any discussion? All in favor of adopting the NHSBA policy GCRD, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great work. Thank you very much. That was, yeah, that, I mean, you just took a list of like 20 down to like 3. That's fantastic.
Are you okay with continuing this practice for next year to sort of go back and get rid of the really old ones as well as keep our new ones updated? Did that work?
seem to be, this was a huge one, but
Yeah, much appreciated.
If you give this task to the school board association to update your policy manual, it's thousands and thousands of dollars. So I would rather have us plug away if it works for you guys.
Cool. All right, agenda item number 11 is our second public comment section. Thank you. All right, we can move on. Informational. No. All right. Then the board has, sure.
Could you introduce yourself to all of us?
Sure, yeah. My name is Jeremy Margolis. I'm the new education reporter at the Concord Monitor. I've been at the Monitor for about a month and a half. Yeah, thanks for having me. Usually there's more people here.
Ebbs and flow.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Okay, so the board has need to go to non-public session in accordance with New Hampshire RSA 91-8:3 Roman numeral 2 small letters B and C. B is the hiring of any person as a public employee, and C is matters which if discussed in public would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the board. On a roll call vote to enter non-public at 8:18. Carrie?
Yes.
Melanie?
yes.
Jean?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Very much. Is there a motion to accept the staff